I told you all how good this controller was last year. And I used this controller for a very, very long time as my main daily driver because it was just so good. And in my hands today, we now have the successor to that very controller, the Rainbow 3 from MOJHON. So let's go ahead and talk about it. I'm going to speed this review up just by simply talking about the Rainbow 2 Pro. We're going to point out everything I loved about this controller. So first of all, it is an Xbox style controller, feels like an Xbox controller when you've got it in the hand. The joysticks are in the same place, the face buttons, the D-pad, the triggers, the bumpers, everything feels very familiar if you are coming from an Xbox controller, an official Microsoft one. On the back though, we've got two remappable buttons, and on the top we've got two extra buttons, so 4 in total. And I think this layout is absolutely perfect. The back of it isn't too cramped up with extra buttons. There's just 2 on there. And then you've got those extra 2 on the top, which your fingers are naturally just resting on anyway. We've then got a rubber textured grip on the back. This controller does have trigger stops, but not clicky instant triggers, and that's where the Rainbow 3 comes in. For starters, this thing is freaking beautiful. In all honesty, the Rainbow 2 Pro looked a little bit cheap and tacky. This one takes it to a whole new level. This controller looks premium, feels premium. It just looks dope, especially when you go ahead and turn it on. That thing just looks sick, and the RGB is all customizable. But aside from the faceplate and the fancy lighting, this controller feels pretty much the same. MOJHON have taken what they know already works really, really well from the Rainbow 2 Pro and just made it even better, good enough to compete with every other controller coming out this year. We've got those same 2 buttons on the back, and they are Omron switches, just the same as the Rainbow 2 Pro as well, so very high quality switches. I love these things. Same on the top now as well, because on the Rainbow 2 Pro we did just have some standard tactilely kind of switches on that one, but we have got upgraded switches for those top buttons now as well. And additionally, the triggers, instead of just having trigger stops, these are clicky instant micro switch triggers as well. We've also got upgraded switches in the bumpers, so the bumpers are even better. Like I said, this controller, this Rainbow 3, is literally just a Rainbow 2 Pro, but just next level. It feels the same in the hand other than the glossy kind of style to the faceplate. Some people might not like that and think that it's a little bit of a fingerprint magnet. I'm not offended at all because it's got this like pearly white color to it. I think it's nice, but let me know what you think in the comments. Again, we've got upgraded switches in the D-pad as well. The D-pad was actually really nice on the Rainbow 2 Pro. I couldn't really complain much about the controller at all, but this one is just even better. We've got that same rubber textured grip on the handles, which is really nice and grippy for those sweaty gaming sessions. Now, there are a couple of things about this controller that you'll not realize just by getting it in the hand. On the Rainbow 2 Pro, we've got potentiometer joysticks, so just the same as what you'd find in standard PS5 controllers, Xbox controllers, SCUF controllers. However, the software had an auto calibration built in, so even if the joysticks did start to drift slightly, the controller would actually calibrate itself and recenter its own sticks as you're using it. So stick drift wasn't actually really a problem on that controller, but one day it will be. So if I continue to use this controller for maybe another year or two, stick drift would eventually take over and I would have to repair it or replace it. But on the Rainbow 3, don't worry about it. This actually has capacitive joysticks, which is an anti-drift technology, and these things are absolutely perfect. I have talked about capacitive joysticks already on the channel with a different controller, but because of the rest of the controller, that one didn't really stand out in the crowd. This one is very different though. So they are capacitive joysticks, but what they've done with this one is they've given them a very similar tension to standard potentiometer joysticks. So these actually really don't feel any different to the Rainbow 2 Pro. The tension is about the same, which I am actually really, really impressed with, because these are going to feel very natural, very responsive. You get the added benefit of they won't get any stick drift because of those contactless sensors. They won't suffer from any magnetic interference, just like Hall effect joysticks would. They're super smooth, super responsive, and they're high resolution as well. They really are the future of controller gaming. Despite having a bunch of upgraded switches in the controller, the actuation pressure is about the same, maybe ever so slightly lighter for those buttons on the top and the D-pad, but I still think it's a really, really nice actuation pressure. I think everybody who gets their hands on this controller is going to be really, really happy with that. We've still got the 3.5mm headphone jack on the bottom here, and we've also got the extra keys that come on MOJHON's flagship controllers, so the Blitz and the Rainbow controllers. This is where you can set up macros, turbo, profiles, and all that good stuff. The Rainbow 2 Pro did have membrane face buttons, which I actually really like because they've got a tactile, snappy feel to them, so they provide a lot of feedback, but they also weren't too loud. Again, the Rainbow 3 now has clicky micro switches for the face buttons, and to be honest, I could have done without this upgrade. I do prefer the membrane buttons on the Rainbow 2 Pro, but I think these are quite nice. I don't think they're going to be an issue for anybody, and they're not too loud either, which is definitely a plus. Now, there is something weird about this controller actually, because on the box, it does say that it's got a 2000 Hz polling rate, wired and wireless, which is great, and that's exactly what the Blitz 2 offered that I reviewed last year. And I've talked about polling rates before. There is a certain point where it becomes kind of pointless trying to make it any faster. But actually, when I ran a test on this Rainbow 3, it's actually showing as a 4000 Hz polling rate with an average of 2500 Hz. Bit of a strange one, and I'm going to investigate and run some more tests on that one to really find out what's going on there. But up until now, all I can say is this controller is ridiculously fast, ridiculously low latency. It's going to keep up with any pace of gaming that you need. I mean, in my opinion, the 1000 Hz on the Rainbow 2 Pro was plenty. I never had any issues. The controller was very responsive. But yeah, the Rainbow 3, I don't really know any other way of putting it. This controller just takes it above and beyond. This might actually be the absolute best controller in 2026. It really is putting a lot of pressure on the rest of the competition. Now, I did have a chat with MOJHON last year when I was collaborating with them doing these reviews on a couple of their controllers. So they have been kind enough to send out the Rainbow 3 completely free of charge, but I'm not being paid to make any of these videos. I've never been paid to make a video for a controller. So all my opinions are entirely my own. Nobody is paying me to say anything in this video or any other video. But we have reviewed, they've been kind enough to send us out the Gale Hall. They did also send out the Blitz 2, the Rainbow 2 Pro, and the MOJHON Ether, and then now obviously the Rainbow 3. I did have a conversation with them last year, and I said to them that the controllers that they're making are great. They are ticking all the right boxes, and in my personal opinion, from my experience and my knowledge in the market, and especially with other controllers that are being released this year that we do actually already have our hands on right over there, but I'm not going to show that in this video. I said to them, we need to see a console controller, and I don't mean just Nintendo Switch, because all of these controllers can be used on Nintendo Switch and Switch 2. I said to them that we ideally do need to see a controller that can have native support on either PlayStation 5 consoles or Xbox consoles. And I didn't get any confirmation back as to whether they are actually working on that or not. But the Rainbow 3, again, only has the same support as the Rainbow 2 Pro. So it's going to be for PC, Nintendo Switch, and iOS and Android. So no, we can't use it on the PS5. We can't use it on an Xbox console either. And it's really making it difficult for me because there are some officially licensed Xbox controllers coming out that are very close to the specification of this controller. And just the fact that I'll be able to take that controller from my PC and go use it on my Xbox console natively is a really, really big win. It's a very small thing. And for most people probably are just playing on PC and probably don't even have a console anymore because PC gaming is elite and it will be here on out now. Consoles just cannot keep up at all. However, it's all about convenience. So I am disappointed to see that the Rainbow 3 hasn't taken the next step in platform compatibility, but hopefully MOJHON have something going on in the background and they're working on that, because honestly, they are getting everything else right. I honestly cannot say a single bad word about this controller whatsoever. I'll throw a link in the description for you to pick up your very own. This controller is insane value for money. The build quality is good. The components that they're using in this controller are not only good, but are probably the best set of components that I've seen in a controller. This thing's gonna last a very, very long time. It is 100% worth the money. In fact, this controller probably should cost more than it really does. And I don't think I've ever said that about any controller ever. Again, huge thanks to MOJHON for sending this one out, because honestly, I had very high hopes for it because of the Rainbow 2 Pro and how much I loved that controller. And again, this thing is going to be one tough mother to beat. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like, make sure you hit subscribe as well, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. Like I've said before, handfuls of controllers in the lineup this year, and you want to make sure you're staying up to date on what's going on. That's going to be all the yapping from me today though. I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.